Park, the venue for the inaugural European Le Mans race. The rules, the cars and the organisation, the same as for the Le Mans series, but over here in Europe. Good evening, I'm Avon and welcome to our of this 2-hour and 45 opening race in the European Le Mans series. A large number of the American crews on hand, led of course by the all-conquering well, 4 classes in the Donington race. The 2 open prototypes, the LMP 900s, the big category, and the 675s. Then the GTS class, the domain previously of the Chrysler Viper, the Chevy Corvette, and now, of course, of the Celine. And the G class, it's BMW versus Porsche. In that one, the Porsche 911 GT3 are previously dominant, but this year a new V8-powered BMW M3, which Porsche is already rankling about. And Audi, the dominant car this year and last, takes pole position. Dindo Capello and Tom Christensen ahead of Frank Bieler and Emanuele Pirot. The R8s on the first and second spots on the Grove. Honorary Brit Stefan Johansson and honest Brit Guy Smith third up in the Gulf Audi. And fourth fastest, the brand new first showing for the Chrysler Oreca prototype with its American engine. Jules Bouillon and Laura Renault, racing for Henri Pescarolo, start 5th in their Courage with its Peugeot engine, ahead of the better of the Ascaris, Ben Collins, sharing with ex-Formula 3000 ace Werner Lutberger. Best of the Panos only 7th, David Brabham and Jan Magnussen had gear change and suspension problems in qualifying, and the older machine of Jay Cochran and Peter Boss, the privateer Audi LMP, is in 8th spot, ahead of the second of the low-line works cars of Klaus Graf and Walter Sales. And then the LMP 675 pole sitter is the Martin O'Connell and Warren Carway Ray Rowan run Pilbeam. The pole sitter in the GTS class, Franz Conrad and Oliver Gavin sharing the Conrad Racing Celine, and the pole sitter in GT is the BMW M3 of Frederick Ekblom and Dirk Müller, but their teammates JJ Later and Jörg Miller failed to go into qualifying as a result of an engine problem on their car, and they will start stone last. Onboard camera on the 43 BMW, shooting flame there in the bottom right-hand corner as the field comes around the Melbourne Loop at the end of the second of 2 warm-up laps, ready to go for the green flag, hopefully first time round. And a well-controlled field led by the 2 Audis. Temperatures little above freezing, it has to be said, barely crawling into the 50 degrees Fahrenheit in Britain. And the Easter weekend race underway with a good clean start from the front row of the grid, the 2 Audis wheel to wheel, and on the left hand side of the second row, Stefan Johansson in the Gulf coloured Audi, alongside him Yannick Dalmas in the Mopar engined Oreca prototype built by the Italian Dallara factory team. Well, Guy Smith, Stefan Johansson rather, launching himself into second place down the Craner curves ahead of the number 2 Audi, and then in 5th position behind the Chrysler prototype run by the Oreca team was the better of the Panos, started by David Brabham. Well, of course, Audi have had a dominant season so far. This brand new car, or the car that they introduced brand new last year, the 2000/2001 version of the Audi R8, has not lost a race, and they intend very much to keep it that way. And although it does make the results of the races possibly a little predictable, what we are seeing here is a car that is absolutely dominant in its category. A superb piece of engineering, as last year's 1-2-3 result at Le Mans showed. David Brabham there showing the nose to the Oreca run prototype in 4th place. But Olivier Beretta, who ran, of course, so successfully in the Vipers in Europe and in America for the Oreca team in this brand new car, take 1.9 around the end of the lap. And looking back here at the Alex Job Racing Porsche, we're on board the GT leader. This is Frederick Ekblom, the Swede. He's leading the GT class, and that's Lucas Luhr at the helm of the best of the Alex Job cars, the number 23 car. Down to the Melbourne hairpin, right down the gears. Even these cars at that pace, well, in fact, this is on board now with JJ Lato running up through the field. Jay Cochran in the privately owned and run Panos, the Westwood Racing entry, having a spin there between Coppice and McLean's, and going onto the grass, beats Bieler through the S's. Now, JJ Later and Jörg Müller in the pits for a penalty. Dick Martin there, the chief official in the pits from Sportscar, the organising body, overseeing all of the penalties, and there were a large number of them, it has to be said. Leto pinged for passing under waved yellows as he worked his way up the GT field. And an awful lot of stop-go penalties. As I said, there were more yellow flags down than in your average American football game. And a number of drivers were stop and go for passing under yellows, a number more for aggressive driving. Now, Sportscar, the governing body of the American and European and Asian Pacific Le Mans series, has tried to bring to the attention, and they had a number of problems too for this car. This is the originally class-leading Fredrik Ekblom BMW. And this car coming in with a chronic misfire, sounding more like a V5 than a V8. Ekblom early on staying in the car for what was a long spark plug and plug lead changing operation. And this was to continue, and it would not be the only stop either for this car during the race. Neither BMW ran cleanly through to the finish, and it seems that although the potential for this pure race-bred 4-litre engine is great, at the moment the teething problems are rather greater. Was in trouble, and David Brabham down at the bottom of the old hairpin. Brakes also preventing the car from showing a competitive edge here. In Texas, the opening race of the year in the heat, they looks like they might be able to take the race to Audi, but now 3 races in, that looks to have been very much a false dawn for the LMP7 machine. So Christensen safely through most of the back markers. Frank Biela in the background is, well, the LMP 675 machine undamaged by that, and so too was the Audi. However, the Audi, as I said, GT lead at this stage, incidentally, in the hands of the Alex Job Racing Porsches. BMW of Fredrik Ekblom that had led the class in the pits with engine problems, and JJ Leto working his way up the field, being dropped back. That, of course, the big old 6-litre V8, stock block-based engine, as opposed to the purpose-built 4-litre racing engine, the V8 that is currently on in the power unit of the low-line prototype. Christensen continuing his domination of this Donington Park race. Of course, like all the Le Mans Series races, it's a timed race. And off goes JJ Leto in the number 42 BMW, and that was after a collision with another Audi, this time the number 2 Audi of Frank Biela, the guilty party. And you can see damage there on the right-hand side, the big flare over the front wheel, partly torn off. The Conrad Celine still going. Not far behind it is the Ray Mallet car, and one of the panels coming up behind. Also in that shot you saw the Courage, Peugeot Courage, which was the best non-Audi car at last year's 24 Hours of Le Mans, and that of course run by Henri Pescarolo. And both BMWs on course at the moment. The Leto car running slowly, right coming up behind him. The problems in terms particularly of their lack of pace compared to that of the Audi. And Lucas Luhr and Randy Pobst, first and second in GT, leading the category still for Alex Job Racing, as the much fancied BMWs vault up and back down the leaderboard as a result of their A, pace, and B, general number of woes. Fredrik Ekblom's 43 car stone last at this stage. We saw him actually going at pace as he caught up with JJ Leto, who was hobbling back to the pits after being nerfed off by the number 2 Audi. And you may expect that the number 1 car, having been stop and goed for punting a slower car off the track, the number 2 car should have been as well. Well, indeed it was. JJ Leto back up into third in GT, ahead of Johnny Molam. And Mike Yules, who's sharing the start until the fuel has come off. Drama's further back for BMW. All looking very spectacular indeed, but some electronics gremlin pouring raw fuel down the very hot exhaust pipes of the V8 every time that Dirk Muller tried to start it up. Overseeing things. Go on, give it another try, son, they said to Dirk a couple of times, and it still gave its best impression of a flamethrower. Finally deciding that perhaps this was not going to be a simple problem that went away. Off went the lead Audi. And under manual power, the number 42 BMW now with no rear wheel arch or no front wheel arch on the right hand side, and a very smoky looking thing being pushed away. Final stop potentially for the number 2 Audi. Again in the background you saw the watchful figure of Dick Martin, the head of the sports car pit lane crew. Well, the battle not just for the position on the racetrack, but also, of course, to make it to the end of the race in that position. And that may be a problem for those who have used a little too much fuel. Audis 1, 2 and 3, the Paynos in 4th, and the Courage in 5th position, ahead of the 2nd Paynos. Top 6, all LMP 900 cars, as you might expect. And a long time, indeed arch motorsport enthusiast. On board now with Guy Smith. Let's ride with him as we chase the number 2 Audi in the battle for 2nd. Got him. Classic British Formula 3 touring car, whatever you like, Donington Park move. Biela going to the inside, Pirot rather, going to the inside at the Melbourne hairpin to shut the door on the inside. Guy Smith chops back out wide, hoping to take a much tighter exit, and then finds that Pirot has in fact overcooked it. He momentarily locks the brakes of the number 2 car, and Smith is by him for 2nd place. Welcome back to the closing stages of the inaugural European Le Mans Series race. We're in the dying moments, and Guy Smith comes in from 2nd place in the Gulf Audi for a last-minute splash and dash, absolutely faultlessly. On board the Alex Job Racing Porsche, this is the GT leader, Sascha Maassen now at the helm. Teammate Christian Menzel is in 2nd spot, having taken over from Randy Pobst. Menzel catching Maassen, but Maassen trying to save the fuel and not head in for a 2nd pit stop. The car's only made 1 stop and has run very conservatively all the way through the race. Being passed first by the Celine, then, as you saw there, by Laurent Redon in the Pescarolo car. Guy Smith flies by. And penultimate lap for them. Just a couple of more minutes in the 2 hours and 45 race duration. Dindo Capello getting ready to take the Audi number 1 car around its final lap. No white flag this time, but the team will know that the time has ticked away, and before he finishes his next lap, the 2 hours and 45 minutes will be up. Seem more and more remote by the day. The American Le Mans Series is an Audi-controlled protectorate, so too, it would seem, on the showings at Donington Park at least, is the European Le Mans Series. The checkered flag falls for Ronaldo Capello. Yost team on the pit wall celebrating, the Danish flag there for Tom Christensen, his teammate. And the Italian acknowledging the crowd. And despite the almost sub-zero temperatures and the fact that it was Easter weekend, which is not only a big family occasion in Britain, but also B, a huge motorsport occasion in Britain with a lot of other distractions. Big crowd coming out to Donington Park. 675 class winner Warren Carway brings the Ray Rowan run Pilbeam Nissan to the line. Behind him, the Panos, the Orica prototype and the Courage all coming to the line. The Golf car of Guy Smith also coming through. The GTS class will go to Bruno Lambert and Ian McKellar Jr. with Ray Mallock Racing's Celine SR7. First time out for the car, a return to winner's circle for the Mallock sports car operation. And in the GT class, the Alex Joe Racing Porsches first and second, but also on the podium, British drivers Mike Hewells and Robin Liddell.